Shalom and welcome to 2 Minutes of Torah. This year is entitled Macro and Micro Jew, Part 4. In the previous Shiurim we discussed sometimes a conflict, specifically on national levels, where there's a conflict between a macro situation and the micro situation. Moshe has right in front of him, Paro, and he has to deal with that issue of Kira of Paro, and then the question of the influence on all of Bnei Israel. We saw Sechog and Amigdash as well in the previous year, Shiur number 3. But this year, this topic certainly applies to individuals as well. I'll give you a simple example that I and many colleagues of mine have in the world of Chinuch. So I've been fortunate to be teaching over 30 years, and the formula is always a simple one, whether it was back in Bel Harbor giving Shiurim in different schools I've been zocher to teach in over the years, whether it's Haftar or Rambam, Shiva B'nai Torah, Mechmash, Ava Yisrael, or giving Shiurim in the shul. The formula is always pretty simple. You're learning, preparing for this year, then you're teaching. It's Lumod Lamed, Lumod Lamed. It's the same formula for over 30 years. And Baruch Hashem, it's a great formula. You're hopefully developing and learning, and you're teaching the children, or the adults, whoever it is, in the next generation. Here's where things get tricky. Let's say, 7 years ago, I'm offered a job to be principal of a school. So now, the learning Lumod Lamed, that's certainly not going to continue anywhere close to what it was in the previous 30 years. You're not going to be in the classroom as a principal, and you're not going to be teaching so much. So the Lumod Lamed is certainly minimized drastically. And yet, you're still considered to be in Chinuch somehow, but is that really Chinuch? It's you're trying to build up a school, you're involved in so many other things, administrative issues, talking with parents and teachers and staff and organizing things. So that's not so simple. So the Lumod Lamed formula is minimized, and for what? Based on what? Is that legitimate? Is it not legitimate? So Baruch Hashem, I'm extremely fortunate, so many administrative issues taken care of by my incredible partners, Rabbi Moshe Pinchas of Levi Friedman. So I could really focus on chinuch of the children. But still, it's not a Lumod Lamed formula. I'm not giving shiur day to day, hour to hour like I was the previous 30 years. So that is a classic micro-macro conflict. On the one hand, just focusing on me and my 30, 20, 40 students, whatever I have that year, in terms of the micro picture, Lumod Lamed is minimized drastically. But wait a second. Maybe the macro is setting up a certain kind of school like Darchei Noam, where we're focusing in on some things that maybe other schools are not focusing in on, trying to create a certain maslul in the Haredi world, but a certain level of academics in the secular studies, and then the Torah study and Torah learning as well, and a certain focus on approach to Mido, and a certain approach to Medinat Yisrael. So maybe that's an important contribution to Chinuch and Eretz Yisrael. And yes, that's the macro, and yes, it means compromising on my micro of Lumod Lamed. So I had that conflict 7 years ago, and obviously I decided that the micro should be put aside for the macro, for the sake of setting up such an institution. I certainly hope and pray that was the right decision. But this is just one example that Machanchiv have, rabbis have, and really people have all the time. And the main point is to, of course, define what the conflict is and have it clear. And then, of course, think it through properly, go to good people for advice, go to one's Rabbi for advice, whoever else also one goes to for guidance and advice, and Mitzvah Hashem have siyata d'shmaya in making the right decision. Shalom.